Greetings, friends. This is Chris Batz, and you are listening to the inaugural episode number 1 of the Future is Bright podcast. In today's episode, I spoke with Dara Redler, Chief Legal Officer of H&R Block. We discussed her exciting legal career at iconic brands such as Coca-Cola, Tilray, and now H&R Block. We discussed transformation and authentic leadership as two major themes in her career, as well as her passion for mentoring and inspiring the next generation. Stay till the end to hear her perspective on work-life balance and her love for the open doors, and so much more. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast and leave a review on iTunes and YouTube. A bit more about Dara. Prior to H&R Block, Dara came from Tilray Inc., a leading global cannabis lifestyle and consumer packaged goods company, where she served General Counsel, Chief Compliance Officer, and Corporate Secretary. Previously, Dara was with the Coca-Cola Company in Atlanta and held numerous leadership roles on the legal team while she was there for 17 years. Prior to the Coca-Cola Company, she was senior counsel and a member of the management team for a global computer reservation system called Worldspan, and was also prior an associate in the litigation department of the law firm Alston Bird in Atlanta. She's a graduate of Duke University School of Law, attained dual degrees from the University of Pennsylvania in marketing and global studies. It is also worth noting and mentioning that Dara has been very active in her community, of which we'll highlight on the show. Welcome, Dara, to the Future is Bright podcast. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm excited to have this discussion.
Well, it's fun to have you on the inaugural show to kick things off. I was very excited to hear of H&R Block hiring you and you starting, I think it was 6 months ago.
Yes.
There's H&R Block is a very well-known employer and a big employer in Kansas City. So we're excited to see Jeff Jones has joined for now a couple of years, and now he's bringing you on. So it's exciting to see this theme of transformation.
Yes.
And so I'd love to just jump in quick and share. So tell me again, where are you raised?
So I was raised in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Went to the University of Pennsylvania and then to Duke for law school. And after law school, moved to Atlanta to start with the law firm in Atlanta. So my home remains in Atlanta.
Okay.
I have never relocated for a job, although I've worked in different locations. And I remain with my home in Atlanta today, even though working for H&R Block in Kansas City.
So you're a pro at this remote thing.
I am. Even before it was fashionable, I was doing it.
And I understand you have a husband and 3 boys.
Yes.
Okay.
So my husband here in Atlanta, and then 3 grown sons.
Right. So let's talk. So why Alston? Why Atlanta?
When I went to law school at Duke, interviewed with a number of firms, and I was just ready to try a new city. I grew up in Pennsylvania, knew Philadelphia very well, but it was a time in my life to try a new city, and Atlanta seemed like a great option. And so joined Alston Bird right out of law school there.
Which is a fantastic firm. Was it your intent to do commercial litigation? I think that's what you did.
Yeah, I thought it would be a great training ground. But interestingly, I early on spoke with my mentor and told him eventually I wanted to come in-house. I thought it would be a great combination of my legal and my business background. And so that was always a goal of mine.
This notion of going in-house, did you have a grid for that during law school, pre-law school? What led you to know that you wanted to do that?
I did not. I heard during law school that the best training you could get at that time was to go to a large law firm that really had an established program for training that would pair you with a mentor, that would rotate you through different matters. And so for me, that seemed like a great opportunity to learn as a new practicing attorney. But in terms of what I thought about my future, as I mentioned, I loved the business background, and I thought being an attorney in a company, you could lend a different view to help support the business. And so I looked forward to making that move at the right time.
Now, you have a couple degrees from University of Pennsylvania, including a business degree. Why law school? Marketing, I mean, that's usually, I don't normally hear of attorneys getting a marketing degree, but then going into become an attorney.
Yeah,
So curious to hear
yeah.
about that.
So I loved the marketing degree
Mm.
at Wharton, and really that's what piqued my interest in terms of the business side. During my time at Wharton, I did have a professor for my business law class, and he was really the first person that opened my eyes to going in house, this combination of legal and business, and this unique intersection where you could help drive business from a different perspective. He introduced me to people in the community, to in-house counsel, and that was really the first time I thought about that path.
And so, if I understand, 2 years at Alston Bird, which is a fantastic firm, and then you landed at a kind of a travel tech company almost, Worldspan.
Right.
How'd that door open?
Yeah, it was actually a connection through the firm. As I mentioned, my
Okay.
my mentor in the firm, we had discussions about wanting to go in that direction. And when an opportunity opened up at one of their clients, WorldSpan was looking for their first kind of business counsel.
Oh, fun.
And so it was a great fit at that time for me to step into a company for the first time.
Now, did you try matters for them, or was it just a relationship of the firm and they thought of you?
Relationship of the firm.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Very good. And did you speak with other employers? I mean, was this the only option you were thinking of, or just like, oh, this sounds like a great thing?
I did not at that time. I spoke with them, and it seemed to be a good fit in terms of I'd be stepping in as the first to really partner with their sales and marketing side, their regulatory side, and the general counsel at that time, seemed like would be a great mentor for me. And so it seemed like a very natural transition from the law firm to, their connected company. And it proved to be a great learning opportunity.
So 7 years there, and then you landed at kind of the pinnacle of Atlanta employers, Coca-Cola. What
Yes.
what what led to that transition, and why Coca-Cola?
Yeah. So Coca-Cola actually reached out and recruited me, and
It's got to be flattering.
that was an interesting story. Is my husband was also interviewing at Coca-Cola at the time. He's in marketing,
Okay.
and
There's a
so
theme here, marketing.
he 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 landed his job before me. Totally different paths, but we both landed at the Coca-Cola company. But it was a great opportunity, obviously, to step into, um, a well-known, well-respected company. But really, what I thought about is the incredible opportunities I would have um, to experience different things and maybe even move throughout divisions. I love learning and being challenged. And so the thought of a large global company with so many aspects of its business excited me.
And it sounds like you had amazing amounts of opportunities. You've had several roles at Coca-Cola.
I did.
Um, what are some highlights for you while you were at Coca-Cola for 16, 17 years?
Yeah, so you rightfully point out, I always was in the legal division supporting the business as opposed to a subject matter specialist. So I always enjoyed sitting on the leadership teams of the business that I was supporting and moved through many different aspects from sales and marketing to distribution to digital. So many varied pieces of the business. Some highlights, I worked on and supported one of the largest campaigns Coca-Cola has ever had, which is exciting to do and excited to see the results. I helped with digital transformation and you mentioned early on, transformation is something I've focused on, that excites me. How do you continue to evolve to be relevant for the consumers of tomorrow? Um, and then outside of my core work, at Coca-Cola, I had a number of opportunities that really played to my passions.
Such as?
I sat on the company's corporate diversity council. I had the opportunity to lead the Women's Business Resource Group, and expand that globally. And I had the opportunity to start a program that Coca-Cola sponsored, that supported teens and their development and exposure to business aspects. Many of those teens coming from diverse environments and underserved communities. So a lot of opportunities that played in my passions.
Dara, I can't help but think about, so Coca-Cola is one of the largest, if not the largest employer in Atlanta, and Atlanta is a very diverse city. Um, the efforts that you participated in, were they a front runner in the reality of what our country's facing and have been going through, or were you guys kind of pioneering that as a corporation in the city? I'd be curious to know kind of where they have been.
Yeah, I don't think I could say we're, at the forefront and we're leading, because I think a lot of these programs existed across the country, but I think, given the times we're in now, many more people are recognizing the importance of such programs, and so it's exciting to see these programs growing. It's exciting to see more companies and individuals getting involved in these type of programs, and continues to be a passion of mine.
It's awesome. Um, and so, uh, I mean, Coca-Cola has been through a lot of changes and transformation. We can touch on that again, but
Yeah.
someone knocked on your door for another opportunity. That's We'd love for you to share. So, Tilray, how did that come to the forefront for you?
Yeah. So, as you had stated, I had been at Coca-Cola for more than 17 years and was looking at what would be the next opportunity. And many times when you've been somewhere so long, um, at least for me, you think similarly to where you've been. So, I was thinking about other similarly situated companies, which, a lot of people go to, coming from a company like Coca-Cola. I really owe that move to my husband, because he knows how much I love to learn, to be challenged. And he really pushed me as opportunities came in front of me to think, um, what do I really want at this point in my life? What would make me happy? What would challenge me? What would stretch me? And so the recruiter called about Tilray, global cannabis company in an industry I didn't know anything about, a stage of a company that I was not had no experience in, coming from a large established public company. uh, but the more I thought about that opportunity, the fact that I could learn an industry that was literally coming out of a state of prohibition into the light, where regulations were changing, so incredibly fast, and the chance to build a legal function, be an active member of an executive team, and help this company grow exponentially to its goal of becoming one of the largest global companies. It was really an opportunity, that I couldn't turn down. So an unusual move, I recognize, coming from the Coca-Cola company, but the right move for me at that time.
And they just did an IPO, correct?
Right, I joined right after the IPO, and so, helping them build and navigate as a public company, and helping the board. I'll say it's some of those years I spent at Tilray, some of my most challenging work. You realize, um, how much you have to build the plane as you fly it with a high growth company. But what an incredible opportunity to learn, to stretch. And so really appreciative to have that opportunity.
So these are big brands, and transition to another huge brand.
Yeah.
Talk to us about this transition from Tilray to now an icon in Kansas City.
Yeah. So again, recruiter called about the opportunity at H&R Block, and like I had done when the recruiter had called about the Tilray opportunity, I first paused and said, I can't imagine why me. I have no experiences, in tax and financial products. I had uh, done Coca-Cola and then Tilray Global Cannabis, and I just didn't see how H&R Block fit in that and what I could lend to it. And the recruiter convinced me to do a call with the CEO. And I said, of course, I'm open to that. And really, it was the discussion with Jeff Jones that absolutely turned me to being excited about this role. So, it was definitely not on my radar. It was not something I expected. And after one discussion with him, I was incredibly excited about the opportunity.
Do you have liberty to share how that conversation went and what really piqued your interest?
Yeah. So, Jeff talked to me about, this iconic company, H&R Block, well established, respected, touches communities, all across the nation. And he was brought in to help transform the company. What has been publicly disclosed as Block Horizons 2025. And really, that was to transform, to take the best of what H&R Block has always done, to adapt that to consumers for tomorrow, whether they want to go into an office or they want to do things online. So expanding the way we think about their core business, but also transforming into new lines of business, namely financial services and small business. He also talked to me about a culture change, needing to incorporate speed into the culture, thinking about risk the right way to enable H&R Block to compete in today's environment and tomorrow. And so, as he spoke about that type of transformation, while I knew nothing about taxes and nothing about financial services, that type of thinking, transformation, culture change, purpose driven company is something that excited me.
Um, and was it like sign me up, or were there other options you were weighing also?
I was weighing other options
Okay.
at the same time, which is also great because it forces you to really think about what's most important to you. Is location most important to you? Is size of the company? Is the relationship with the executive team or the board of directors? So every conversation you have, you learn not only about a company and a role, but you learn about yourself. And it was definitely a time where I was checking myself on those type of aspects. So I actually am glad that I had the opportunity to speak with a number of companies to really think through those aspects.
And without redundancy, what was it you were wanting in this next opportunity, that why this one really stuck to you?
Yeah. So it for me, the relationship with the CEO and the executive team
Mm,
extremely important.
yeah.
I did have conversations with the directors on the board, and found that the relationship between management and the board just positive, all focused on this transformation. And then how H&R Block was very purpose driven, something that I'm passionate about, how it's seeking to, help people and communities across the country, and helping with financial stability. And that's something you can feel really good about and tie your work to. And so those were really the priorities for me.
I love it. So you brought up kind of everything that I want to talk about next. As we've had conversations, Daria, and what you're passionate about and these themes in your life, as it has, we have seen this horizon of opportunity that you've served in. Um, what about transformation that gets you out of bed and gets you excited and wants you to take a risk and go to another company that you've never seen or understood or industry related that
Yeah.
leads you there?
Yeah. So, to me, it's exciting, as I said, to constantly learn, and transformation is about, um, all of you as a division, a function, a company, learning and growing together, right, in a new direction. So the ways we've always done things may not be the best way, we should do it today or tomorrow or a year from now. And so, having the opportunity to look at all that, to kind of raise your head, pause work, and really think about, if we were creating this today, what should it look like? And as we think about where the company wants to be a couple years from now, what would that look like? And how do we get there? And to me, that's really exciting, to allow us to think about it, to pivot in what we do and how we do it, and continue to grow, so that you're not, even if you're in the same role, you may not be doing it the same way going forward. So really enjoy that.
So let's break that down just for a little bit. So I'm hearing overtures of just things not being done the same way we've done them in the past, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming that you know maybe a pandemic might involve that, and some other things that have
Yeah.
changed life dramatically.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from you, and as well as you know. Um, the opportunity for women to be in leadership or diversity of
Yeah.
thought, um, best and highest use, recruiting, how to think differently. How has that evolved for you, or what is that going to look like different for you at H&R Block versus maybe some of the other places you worked at or had responsibilities?
Yeah. So, in a lot of ways, first of all, I'm technically a virtual executive. I live in Atlanta, and the headquarters is in Kansas City. And following the pandemic, obviously, a lot of companies, thinking about, how do we pivot. Knowing employees want more flexibility, but maintain our culture. And so, as I was going through the process, H&R Block was quick to agree, you could live in Atlanta and you can decide when to be in Kansas City as the business or your function needs. And I love that way of thinking, that, we can continue to evolve. And I know this is very different for H&R Block. They've always had their executives in Kansas City. So, it's a huge move forward. And so, having the opportunity to lead a function, in a way where I can model, that flexibility, and provide that flexibility for the associates that report to me, is a great example of kind of pivot and change that came out of the pandemic. And we're still, finding our footing, and we'll continue to adjust. When do we have to be in the office, or when should we be in the office? When should we be face to face? And when is video okay? Um, and so, that's a continuing change, and I see it as a positive. So that's just one example of, coming to H&R Block and change we see after the pandemic.
Another thing that's come up quite a bit, as you've shared and you've said, people have said of you, that you lead authentically.
Yeah,
I'd love for you to just share what that means for you, or how that comes, how you show up when you lead
yeah.
authentically.
Yeah. You hear about authentic leadership a lot. And I guess I have to take a step back, in my career as when I was early in the career, I kind of looked up the leadership pipeline. And it seemed like there was one way to be a leader. There was a format, a structure. You needed to look a certain way, sound a certain way, act a certain way. And I love the times that we're in now where you truly can choose to bring your authentic self both to work and to leadership. And what I mean by that is, transparency and honesty, bringing your personal values and your personality. To me, it's inspiring trust and motivation, um, and building relationships and the type of culture that you would like to work in. And so I show up that way. I try to show up that way every day, being who I am, how I am, and giving not only permission but advocating for people that report to me to do the same. And so to me, that builds incredible relationships, experience, happiness. And I could give examples of that, but it's being authentic to yourself.
You shared with me, and I just want to highlight that you love building relationship with everyone. So we're not just talking about direct reports, but your entire
Right.
team, all the way down to non-JDs. You really care about the individual.
Yeah. Yeah. It's as I progressed through my career, I realized sometimes your title or your role sometimes gets out in front of you. And so, I realized being chief legal officer, having that title, and being an executive, at a large public company, there's expectations of who I am or how I act. But I do love building relationships. And so I often walk the floor where all the associates that report to me sit to just touch base and say hello. I do lunch with groups, not just my direct reports, but paralegals or program managers. And so I like building those relationships. One, to know that no matter your role or your title, you are a valued member of the team and you provide value to the company in driving the business forward. And I get a lot of pleasure out of building those relationships and knowing the people in my division and hearing from them, what makes them happy, what drives them. So, it is something that I enjoy.
I'd like to kind of jump into two areas that are passions for you. One more so than maybe one that you're speaking of growing in, but you have a love for mentoring and giving to young people. You had shared about 24th century leaders. You had shared a story with me about running into a young man who had come up to you years
Yeah.
later, and I'd just love for you to share with my audience your heart to sow into others.
Yeah. I think I have always had a passion for working with students and helping them learn, expand their view as to what's possible, encourage them in terms of that possibility that they can do anything, they can be anything, and helping them, mentor them to get there. So while at Coca-Cola, the legal division started a program partnered with 21st Century Leaders, which is a high school leadership development program in Georgia. And it's to expose students to different career opportunities, to mentors that they might not otherwise be exposed to. And I love the journey of doing that. Every year we had approximately 80 students come through and been doing this, at Coca-Cola for many years. And you do those things and you mentor the students, and sometimes you just have to believe it's making a difference because you don't always see it or hear it, right? They go on, um, but the story you reference is one day I was in Toronto, of all things, at the top of the CN Tower. So not in my hometown, not in my home state, literally out of the country. And a student came up to me and said, "You're Dara Redler, right?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I was part of your 21st century leadership group, you know, 3 years before. And you so inspired me. I went on to college and now I'm going on to law school. And I just wanted to say thank you." And his father was there and shook my hand. And it was one of those moments that, it really took my breath away. Not the recognition, but just almost as a sign that, he was one of many that many associates touched. And you do this hoping you make a difference. And so it was really a wonderful moment for me.
Dara, you have a role at H&R Block where you're an executive sponsor for Belonging Council,
Mhm.
and you've had various responsibilities around DEI and inspiring women to step into leadership and
Yeah.
supporting women in their careers. Could you speak a little bit about that as well?
Yeah. So, while I was at Coca-Cola, I was part of the Corporate Diversity Council, and also had the privilege of leading the Women's Business Resource Group at Coca-Cola and expanding that globally. And that was, at a time where we were still working on building a pipeline of women for leadership, really helping women develop and providing them mentors, and also making sure there were programs and support from the company that supported women at the many stages in their careers. So just, a wonderful opportunity. Made great connections, and as much as I led, I learned from many other women going through that. And so, some of my greatest experiences and growth came from that experience. At H&R Block, the DEI initiative is called Belonging. Everyone being able to bring their authentic self to work, and feeling like they belong, and can truly be themselves. And so we have a Belonging Council, to that's really a grassroots effort to help the company think about that. So it's not a top down, it's really the associates speaking to us. And under that Belonging Council, we have belonging groups, a number of different groups that employees can join, either because they're a member of that belonging group, or they just want to support that belonging group. And so I'm the executive sponsor, just helping to support the ideas and initiatives that employees have. Again, I think it's important that we hear those voices and not think we know as an executive team. And so, it's a great privilege to be able to support them in their initiatives.
You have also shared with me that you have a love for the outdoors. You think differently about work-life balance, or you call it differently. I also know that we recently spoke, and you just got back from a vacation with the kids, your three older sons and your husband, going to state parks. Please share with my audience just how important
Yeah.
that is for you to get outside.
Yeah, so I have a passion for the outdoors. It's not only for the beauty of the outdoors, and how diverse that beauty can be, but really that's my happy place. It's my place where I can take a break, I can recharge, I can think. I find that some of my best ideas for work have happened kind of in that off time, when I'm just in nature and really can think about things. And so that's everything from a walk or a hike to vacations out in nature. For me, that's the thing that helps me be my best, both personally and professionally, and be my best at work. So you mentioned people talk about work-life balance. I don't love that terminology because it implies, this kind of, true balance at all times, and life, as we all know, it doesn't work like that, right? At any point in time, something's more important than something else. To me, it's about choices, about priorities, and when you make a choice, a priority, to be present in that moment. So if you choose to be at work and you're missing something personally, then be at work, be present. But if you choose to go to a function for your child, don't be looking at your work emails. Be present in that moment. And to me, being present in those moments you choose is the most important thing.
Dara, I wanted to ask you a fun question.
Okay.
Um, so, where have you broken the rules?
Mm. Um, Broken the rules. My family would laugh at that, because I am a rule person, but I do take risks. So it might surprise people that, I've gone bungee jumping and skydiving and parapented off a mountain, signing lots of waivers,
Sounds like it.
to be able to do those activities. So I do like those adventurous activities. Also, as an attorney, especially being in-house, it's not just about the law, it's about the business. And, when you think about risk, you have to think about risk tolerance, and where we can lean in with the business, and what those risks may look like. So it's not really, breaking the rules, but it's being thoughtful about the decisions that you make.
Dara, what makes you laugh out loud?
um, I love to laugh. I love, comedies. I'm a sap for comedies and laugh out loud. I- you know, I, I think there's so much humor in just everyday life. There's always something that just makes me laugh out loud during a day. Um, so laughter is one of those things I think, you just need in your life because it makes you feel good,
Yeah.
right? Just a good belly laugh. And so, embrace the things that are funny, including yourself. Sometimes you just have to laugh at yourself.
Dara, what are you putting off that you always wanted to do that you could do now?
Mm. Some big trips. Um, I have never been on a safari in Africa, and that's on the bucket list. You obviously need the time, and the resources to do that. So,
Yeah.
I had put that off, but that's coming. So I'd say a couple trips like that
Okay.
will be in my future. Um, and as my kids have reached adulthood, it's a different relationship. And so I think about opportunities that we'll have together that are different than when they were little, that I'm really excited about. It's fun having, that different relationship with your child.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about this next stage.
Dara, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for your time.
Chris, thank you so much. So much fun speaking with you, and appreciate the invitation.
Thank you, everyone who listened to this episode of the Future is Bright podcast. If you like this podcast, leave a review on iTunes and YouTube. Follow the show on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you listen. To share our podcast or listen to more shows, go to my new website, chrisbatz.com. And remember, the future is bright.